What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Thanks so much for joining us on the program today. At the top of the show, Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco is going to join us to talk about why those evil men of the Missouri House of Representatives voted to cover the women folks bear arms. No, that's right. Female legislators on the floor of the House of Representatives in Missouri will not be allowed to bear their arms. I thought we had a right to bear arms. We'll talk about that in just a moment. At 7:30 this morning, I've got a great interview with you coming up today with Vance Ginn, former top Trump economist, to talk about the fears of a recession continue to grow. We'll talk about that at 7:30. And at 8:30 a.m. today, we're going to speak to Iraq veteran 8888, the man who got me into military surplus firearms, to talk about the new ATF rule on pistol braces. It's coming down. Are you going to go register your short-barreled rifles, aka your AR-15s that have the short barrels and you have the brace on it because it could get around the ATF rules, but now they changed the rules, and if you don't do what they say, you're going to be a felon? Well, you might want to stick around at 8:30 to hear that. But first, let's go ahead and have our friend Tony Lovasco joining us on the program this morning. Good morning, Tony. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Austin. Doing well.
Thanks so much for joining us, Tony. I last week was reading all of the news, and I mean, in breathless tones, left-wing periodicals were coming after men like yourself in the House of Representatives of Missouri for this new rule that would require these hussies in the Missouri House of Representatives to cover their bare arms. Tony, your thoughts?
Well, that's not actually what it does. It does actually have that effect, I suppose. But if you actually look at the rule change, it's a lot more innocuous than the media has portrayed. Was it necessary? Probably not. The idea was that the women's dress code in our rules, for whatever reason, was structured very differently than that of the men. On the men's side, it basically says that we have to wear business attire, including jackets and slacks with a tie. The previous rule for women read that, proper attire for women shall be, jackets worn with a blazer or sweater, dress shoes, or boots. And I guess the previous rule had been interpreted to mean that if you are wearing a dress, you do not need to wear a jacket or something with sleeves generically, which some people thought was not considered business attire. They reworded the sentence to match the structure of the men's language to clarify that, you have to have a jacket. And some people interpreted that to mean, we're trying to get people to cover up. I don't know that we really needed to take the time to change the rule. I think it was a little bit of a waste of my hour. That being said, there was no nefarious intent here. It was just kind of a cleanup thing.
Virginia Ramsier Winter, who's an associate professor at the University of Missouri, said lawmakers shouldn't have even debated this because it unnecessarily put the focus on the way women look instead of the issues. She says, I think it reinforces the idea that we value women more for their appearance above more important things like their intelligence and contributions. What would you say to the associate professor at MU?
Well, that doesn't even make any sense. The concept here, honestly, might actually have the opposite effect as a lot of people are intending, and that is I think, quite frankly, if you were to wear a jacket with some of the outfits that some of the ladies will wear, it's going to look ridiculous. The whole point is that some dresses are designed to be worn as they are. If you throw a jacket over it or a sweater, now all of a sudden it doesn't match. The whole point of dress codes in general is just to look professional. And I'm inclined to think that we ought to trust people to just look professional. And if they don't, then you know what? They're going to probably have their own consequence if, they show up and they look dumb. I don't think we need to be codifying specific rules down to the letter of what kind of fabric you're wearing. I do think that's a little bit of a waste of time.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, I'm speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Tony, didn't we have an issue last year with a male representative showing up in something that was non-dress code, and didn't he get reprimanded? I think it was Senator Mike Moon, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it was on the other side of the chamber. My understanding is that the Senate rules don't have a specific dress code. They more or less do what I'm proposing, which is to say, look professional. And that's about it, but they don't actually define it. And Senator Moon decided to make the point that you really oughtn't enforce with the consequences professionally rules that don't exist. And he said that, there's no rule that says I have to wear dress pants. And so I'm going to show up with overalls to demonstrate that, I'm still acting within the confines of what's allowed. And that should be fair game. And some people kind of completely lost their heads over it. I think he was pulled off of his committees for a couple of weeks. It was a whole deal. Which I think is kind of insane. Was it particularly professional? No, that was kind of his point, is that, the rules are what they are. And if you care about something, you ought to write it down. I don't care about this, so I'm not inclined to think that it necessarily needs to be written down. However, I do agree with his point that if, the body does want a dress code, it ought to be defined, and that way everyone's on the same page. That seems fair.
Tony, is this the kind of stuff that we should pretty much expect for the rest of the legislative session if this is how it starts?
I don't know. Honestly, I think this was more about having a rules package that more or less everyone agreed with, and limiting floor amendments to things that were, considered polish or cleanup. Most of the meat of this legislation, and it's not really legislation, it's the rules that we operate by, but it was a resolution, it's an official act. Most of that was done ahead of time in committee, behind the scenes, that sort of thing. The floor debate was mostly limited to this particular amendment. And then, of course, Democrats had several ideas that were discussed, some at length, some at not. I think there's some good ideas in there that maybe we could have looked into a little bit more. But the reality was, I don't think that the body had a long appetite for a big discussion, and that's just kind of what this turned into. I don't think this is indicative of a overarching trend or anything like that.
Tony, Missouri has got a massive budget surplus left over from last year. You guys didn't spend it. What do you want to do with it?
Well, I'd like to give it back to the people who gave it to us to begin with, since we took it from them by force. It seems reasonable to me. We did pass a moderate tax cut during the special session. Of course, it was touted as the biggest tax cut in Missouri history, which I think it was. But we don't really have a history of giving huge tax cuts here in Missouri. So, the fact that it was the best was perhaps still leaving a little bit to be desired. I'd like to do quite a bit more. We're certainly looking at eliminating or severely reducing the personal property tax. That's something that's come up in discussions quite a few times. It's an incredibly unpopular tax. It's something that I think is kind of low-hanging fruit to work on this year.
If you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Missouri State Representative Tony Lovasco. Tony is coming to us as a representative from the St. Charles area. He's joining us today on the program. We've been talking to him a little bit about a rule change in Missouri that got a lot of attention, specifically because it changed the House dress code for women in the House of Representatives. And Tony's clearing up some of those misconceptions that people have had, or misunderstandings of that rule change. Tony, I know that I didn't kind of prepare you to have this discussion, but I was just curious about where you stand on this, because I know you and we've had lots of discussions about, the science when we were discussing back in COVID a lot back in the day. And I remember when you and I, in the very, very beginning of the pandemic, there was a big rally here to reopen the economy, because for a very brief period here in the state of Missouri, there were, shutdowns, lockdowns, And you and I showed up to that rally, this big, huge rally at the very beginning, wearing masks, right? Because we just had a barely an understanding of how we didn't know at all how COVID-19 was spread. We didn't know if masks were useful or if they weren't, right? So we just sort of made the best guess that we could at the time. These days, you and I wouldn't be caught dead wearing a mask unless we were required to by force, because we've learned more along the way about how COVID-19 is being, you know, is transmissible, and it's not outdoors at rallies; it's indoors in homes with poor ventilation for a large part of it. But I stirred up quite a controversy last week when I started talking about the science of fluoridation. And I'm curious, do you agree with me that fluoridation, rather than sort of a conspiracy to, lower people's IQs, is something more along the lines of teeth socialism?
He's socialism. Yeah, that's probably about right, honestly. From what I've seen, the science does suggest that it's helpful in most cases. There obviously can be some harm, in high concentrations or certain people that are susceptible. That being said, do I think we should be adding it to drinking water without people consenting? Probably not. No, I think that our technology is well within the ability to allow people to add it to their own drinking water within the point of entrance into their home. There's zero reason we couldn't just have that sort of thing. And honestly, it's kind of a moot point for me and a lot of my constituents. I'm on a well, as are a lot of people in my district, which is superior for a lot of reasons because you're completely independent of government for your drinking water. But there is really no practical way to add fluoride to a well water supply, in a small residence like a home. The technology exists, no one really sells it, and I imagine that's probably because there's a government monopoly on adding it to the water supply, so there's not a lot of demand.
Right. And not every location, not every, not every local government adds it to their water supply. But I mean, I guess, if we're going to get into the principle of the debate, is the question really here that the fact that if we have government water supplies, public water supply districts and such, isn't that really the issue here? Because, my issue is with the whole, conspiracy argument on the fluorides, the fluoride question, is that the issue is government water in the first place, right? But if you have government water, if you have socialized water, the government has determined, or at least economists, or people who are doing econometrics on this one, they've calculated that the cost of fluoridating water is lower than the cost of providing healthcare to people whose teeth have grown into their brains. I mean, that's a rational calculation to make. So wouldn't really but if you actually told people, hey, maybe we shouldn't have socialized water, I think most people would look at you like you had a tooth growing out of your head.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with a lot of these, conspiracy theories or the like, is that oftentimes the folks proposing or presenting them are really close to an important concept, and they can't quite get over that line. And I think you're absolutely right. The discussion we should be having here is it a valid form of government to provide municipal water? I would say probably not. There's nothing about that individuals can't do. There's nothing about that wouldn't be cheaper and better run by the free market. And there's nothing about that really even benefits from socialism, in the sense of like it's not necessarily considerably cheaper when you look at what you're paying for municipal water. My water bill, every month, I think back when I was in the city was, 12, $15, something like that. I guarantee it doesn't use that much electricity to run my well pump as little water as I use. I think the point here is that when you're talking about what the evil or nefarious government purpose is, it's not, I don't think, to ruin your bones with fluoride. It's to get you reliant on the government for more stuff. And I think they've been very successful at that. And I don't think that's a secret backroom conspiracy. They're very open about that. I filed legislation on a bill as an amendment a few times last session to remove the ability of municipalities to force you to hook up to water or sewer lines if they're within a certain distance of your property. Because in my mind, if you're on a private system and you spent thousands of dollars to put that in when you built your house, the fact that the city decides to extend a water line out by the curb does not mean that you have an obligation to hook up to that and now have a monthly obligation. And you know what? Not surprisingly, the municipal folks all fought me on that because they argued quite openly, well, if people were allowed to opt out and have their own well and septic system, there wouldn't be enough customers to support our system. And then, we wouldn't be able to keep a reasonable price for people. Well, yeah, that's called the market. People choose to buy a different product or whatnot, or get it on their own. So I think that's what this discussion really ought to be about.
Well, I agree with you, Tony, but you're arguing a question of principle. But the problem is that the question of principle is not grounded in reality, because the reality is that we have water socialism, and the reality is that 95% of the people in this country do not agree with you and I that Culligan or Nestle or whoever, Poland Spring, should be providing privatized water to every single person who wants it. The reality is that 95% of people are going to go out there and they're going to vote against you and I on privatizing the water supply, and they're going to want their public water. So if that is the case, Tony, and these people are all voting against you and I and saying, well, not only do we demand government water, but we also demand that the water not be fluoridated. Oh, and we're also not going to brush our teeth. We're not going to take other preventative measures to take care of our health care. We're not going to do any of these we're going to blow up to 500 pounds and eat sugary sweets and treats. And we're going to vote for Bernie Sanders for president of the United States. Under the conditions that's reality that we're faced with, Tony, why is fluoridating their water so that we don't have to pay for their healthcare costs on top, their dental costs on top of their other healthcare costs? Why is that such a bad thing?
Well, I suppose it's not within the context of that rather ridiculously framed question.
Which is reality, which it's ridiculous, but it's true.
I mean, you could make that argument about virtually anything. Obviously, if government is going to do a thing, whether we want them to it or not, we would prefer that they do it at least well enough that they're getting some kind of value for the money. I mean, I suppose you could argue whether or not there ought to be libraries, but I don't think it's all that reasonable that if they're going to be libraries, you ought to have some books in the library, and you don't walk in there and all of a sudden it's a sporting goods store. But the issue is, A, should the government be doing it at all? And then B, the question is, from the perspective of folks like ourselves that would like to have government be smaller and get out of more and more of these things, well, what is the most beneficial path to eventually getting to that goal? Is it that the government does everything that they do incredibly well at the top tier performance level? Or should they do like kind of the minimum? And I'm arguing that they should do the minimum. As long as we're going to have municipal water, and as long as that's what the masses are voting for, then the government ought to do it with as little expense and as little overhead as possible. And I think there would be an argument, if you're going to make an argument for removing fluoride from the water supply, it would be expense.
The problem is that it's less expensive, and this is where, and I think, I really want you to answer this question here, Tony. It's less expensive to fluoridate the water than it is to pay for their dental care.
In the aggregate. But I think that's the issue. And this is one of the things that is kind of struggling for folks like myself and other liberty legislators, is when you look at the cost of governing overall, these things are taken in isolation, but you have to look at them in aggregate. It is cheaper for a municipal water district to not fluorinate the water, because they don't have to pay for anyone's health care. They're not picking up the Medicaid tab like the people of the state government are, and the state at large. You're spreading that cost to taxpayers across the state when you've got to pick up the tab for people's health care that aren't taking care of themselves or otherwise have issues. And so then you have to decide, well, which is more important, keeping the cost down for citizens at large or keeping costs down for this particular water district that's having this decision? I'm not on the water board, so that's not really part of what I do, but I do have to look at what, things are done at the state level. And we have to look at realities that sometimes you do have to spend a little bit of taxpayer money to save money in the long run. And, we do that regularly.
There it is. I think that's a great discussion, honestly, Tony, and I think that you did it. You explained it very well. But you and your principles, man, you keep sticking back to them. But sometimes, like you say, you have to deal with the issues as they lay and looking at saving money in the aggregate versus in the short term. So it's an interesting question and a problem. Tony, anything else that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go?
It's worth noting, going back to our previous discussion about the dress code, the person who offered the amendments was actually female. There wasn't a single man on the Republican side that stood up and talked about that issue. So anybody who's telling you that this is just some secret plot of the men of the Missouri General Assembly to put the women down, I can tell you quite clearly none of us cared one way or the other how that turned out.
It's a conspiracy. The liberal media, I tell you, they've been drinking too much Florida in their water, I think. Their IQs are very low. Tony Lovasco, Missouri State Representative, good luck in the upcoming legislative session. Can't wait to have you back and see you again soon. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Tony Lovasco? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Coming up next, Martin Luther King Day. They've unveiled a new statue. It's called the Embrace, and it looks like a giant turd. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. You can text the program at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you today. You can also send us a super chat over on YouTube at youtube.com/AP for Liberty. And if you're watching the stream today, I see we've got 24, 25 people or so over on YouTube. Do me a favor, click like on the stream. Easy, free way to help support the show and get our feed, get us into more people's feeds so that we can spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. All right, well, happy Martin Luther King Day. Hope that you are enjoying a day off. If you work for the federal government, why are you watching this show? Probably because we've probably got at least 2 or 3 feds assigned to us, wouldn't you say so? Some FBIs, some CIAs, some DHSs. If you're off today because of Martin Luther King Day, congratulations. We can celebrate today with the $10 million Martin Luther King Jr. penis statue. Many people not too happy with this statue that was unveiled today. It cost $10 million to erect, or shall I say not erect? Or should I not say that really at all? In Boston. Take a look at this statue. Let's head over to our Twitter weirdness. Some real weirdness here for you today on Twitter. Yeah, what does that look like to you? Here we go, the unveiling. Yikes. Yeah, okay. Is this your first time seeing that one? Okay, let's go back to away from Twitter weirdness and into normalness. $10 million Martin Luther King penis statue. Even some of the kin of Martin Luther King apparently hate this new $10 million sculpture, and it was just dedicated to Coretta Scott King, and she hates it. And apparently a cousin of Martin Luther King also said that it looks like a penis. The massive bronze piece, which is titled The Embrace, is supposed to feature 2 sets of arms holding each other, and it's kind of an artistic interpretation of the photo of Coretta and Martin Luther King Jr. hugging after he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Seneca Scott, who is Coretta's cousin, says that the mainstream media was reporting on it like it was beautiful because they were told to say that. But then when it came out, a little boy pointed out, "That's a penis." And everyone was like, "Yo, that's a big old dong, man." That was according to Martin Luther King's cousin. If you'd showed that statue to anyone in the hood, they'd have been like, "No, absolutely not. No." A big unveiling. Like, he added scornfully to this to his commentary, saying, $10 million were wasted, oh my God, to create a masturbatory metal homage to my legendary family members, one of the all-time greatest American families. This gentleman told the New York Post, that woke culture allowed the expensive abstract experiment to come to fruition. Apparently Martin Luther King III approved the piece, and it was designed by this artist Hank Willis Thomas for this organization called Embrace Boston. Now, the artwork's funding was the result of a public-private fundraising partnership. So the city of Boston did pay for that in part, but it's unclear how much of the $10 million for the giant penis/turd was public funds. Yeah, the artist says on his website, "When we recognize that all storytelling is an abstraction, all representation is an abstraction, hopefully it allows us to be more open to dynamic and complex forms of representation that don't stick us to narrative that oversimplifies a person or their legacy. And I think this work really tries to get to the heart of that." Tolly Owens over in the live stream says, looks more like someone holding a big turd to me. What do you think it looks like? Have you seen it? 573-319-1586 is the text line. Again, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. What do you think that the Martin Luther King statue looks like? Funniest responses, get a cookie. Vance Ginn coming up. Economists still expecting a recession this year. It's not the roaring 2020s, but it might be the 1920s, specifically 1929. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, Yes, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. All right, well, sometimes we like to goof around on this program, but for the most part, I like to keep it to the issues that really matter to you, and that's why you listen to this show, to talk about the things that are going to affect your life, not just the price of eggs or whether or not they're going to ban gas stoves, which we'll get to in a minute, but the question of whether or not economists are seeing or forecasting the possibility of a recession this year. We're not out of the woods just yet. Joining us now to discuss is a former top economist for Donald Trump and a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. His name is Vance Ginn, and he's joining us on the program again. Vance, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, Austin, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Vance. I'm reading in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend that 61% of forecasters put 61% probability of recession in the next 12 months. Do you agree with them?
Well, it's something that it's that low. I think when given the economic situation that we're in now, given what happened in 2022, which was the highest inflation in 40 years, interest rates soaring, mortgage rates up to 20-year highs. I really think that we were in a recession already in 2022, and you look at GDP growth and things of that nature, and things haven't sped up. I mean, we've got a better GDP report in the fourth quarter, but there's a lot of headwinds that are coming in the economy. When you think about higher interest rates, inflation, although it's come down a little bit, it's down to 6.5% growth. That's still about 2.5 times what the Federal Reserve would like, actually 3.5 times what they would like for it to be, around 2%. So inflation's still high. So that means that the money supply from the Federal Reserve, right, that kicks all this off and gets the boom and bust cycles started, that the balance sheet has got to come down, and that's going to break down a lot of the bubbles and the other asset prices throughout the economy. And so I think that there is 100% chance that there's going to be a more severe recession this year. I'm glad to see some of these other economists are catching up.
Yeah, no kidding. So, inflation, they say, has eased from 9.1% last June to 6.5% in December. But they say that some economists are expecting it to fall to 3.1% by the end of this year. You think we're going to get at least some relief on prices later this year, Vance?
Well, it's one of the things to think about too, Austin, is remember last year in 2021, we were seeing these historic highs whenever you're thinking about inflation year over year. So that means the prices are going up at a rapid rate. So if they continue to go up, let's say by 3.1%, like it's what that person said there, you're still seeing an increase from where we were last year. And wages are already well below that. So I think it's going to be tough to see us to go down from 6.5% today, inflation year over year, which is general level of prices going up, to down to 3.1. That would be cut in half what we're at today. But I still see a large balance sheet from the Federal Reserve. I see a large deficits that are going to continue. Maybe those will come down some, and so that will help the inflationary picture because that won't allow the Fed to buy as much in debt from the Treasury. And so that will help some of the inflationary pressures. But given that you have this kind of stagnation in the economy, you have higher levels of inflation, so we have a period of stagflation, that usually leads to a recession because you've got to allow for some of those markets to correct in the economy, which hasn't been able to happen for a while because of all the government influence, whether it be from Congress and its fiscal policy, or from Biden and his regulatory policy, or from the Fed and their monetary policy. It's, too much money chasing too few goods, and it's too much government in our economy, which we need less of to allow us to prosper.
Is there any case for optimism? This is sort of a political question, but I mean, in that speaker fight that we had with McCarthy, right, they are pushing to vote to do things like, abolish the IRS and the income tax. Now, do we think that something like that's going to happen? Obviously not, Vance, but at least it shows that the headwinds are starting to push in the opposite direction, away from Democrat big spending policies. But maybe that only means that they're just starting to shift towards big government Republicans, big spending policies.
Well, you're right. I mean, you've seen this from Democrats and Republicans, a lot of big government spending for a number of years. And, even at the state level, you see some of that as well, where, a lot of these states have a lot of surplus. I'm in Texas, and so there's a large surplus here of about $32 billion. But you already see people that are out there trying to spend those dollars. And so if you're wanting to spend those surplus, you might be a big government person, right? And we see a lot of that going on in D.C., where they don't have surpluses, though. They still have massive deficits and still want to go in and spend more and more over time. I am a little bit optimistic, though, that at least the House Republicans, with some of those rules changes that they made, allowing for a fight around the debt ceiling increase, which Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, said needs to be raised this week, or we're going to have some consequences. We've already been seeing the consequences of massive deficits and debt. They're the ones that want to keep spending so much from the Biden administration, and we've really got to start reining that in. But I think with Republicans having the House, that'll put the brake on a lot of these big government spending items, I hope, because we really need some refrain there, because if we don't, we're going to continue to see massive inflation, redistribution throughout the economy, and things of that nature. So that's one of the tailwinds, or a positive thing, I think, in the economy right now, is that maybe we won't get as much bad stuff out of Congress.
That's a good point. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to former top Trump economist Vance Ginn. He's also a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. If you have a question for him, send us a text, 573-319-1586. And if you're watching us over on YouTube, make sure that you like the stream, hit subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you can get notifications whenever we're live. If you have a question for Vance, you can also send it as a super chat over there to help support the show. Vance, I'd like to switch tack here for a moment. Senator Bernie Sanders tweeted 20 hours ago the following. He says, corporate greed is the producer of Eggland's Best, farmhouse eggs, and Land O'Lake eggs, increasing its profits by 65% last quarter to a record-breaking $198 million, while doubling the price of eggs and reporting no positive cases of avian flu. Yes, we need a windfall profits tax. How would you respond to Senator Sanders?
Well, respectfully, Senator Sanders, I think there's a lot more to look at this. What you're looking at, first of all, are accounting profits, not economic profits. What are the economic profits? What are the opportunity costs that these companies are facing in the process? And if you take that money away from them by force, then you're going to certainly distort the economy and make it a situation where we may not have any eggs at all. It's important for us to be able to have this sort of market activity that happens. And by the way, there is a swine flu, from what I understand, going on that's influencing a lot of the eggs. And the last thing is your policies, Senator Sanders, have led to the massive inflation across the economy. And some of that increase in the debt, right, a lot of that's been purchased by the Federal Reserve. Too much money chasing too few goods, and now you have a situation where even eggs, some of your members, your constituents, are having to pay a lot more for eggs, and so there's a lot going on with this, which is ultimately a government problem, government failure, and it's not the situation where we need more government influence, whether it be on profits or on individuals' lives or anything else. This is really a problem with government failure, and so again, less government is the answer.
Vance, if gas stoves give asthma to 1 out of 20 kids, and we can, by banning gas stoves and forcing everyone to use electric stoves, we can protect the life of 1 out of every 20 children who are exposed to gas stoves at a young age who might develop asthma. Isn't it worth it if it saves just one life, Vance?
Every life is precious, and we don't want to lose any lives. But at the same time, we need to allow for an opportunity for people to benefit and to satisfy their desires. And look, if we're going to go out and say what's the biggest harms to people and to kids, then maybe we need to be banning cars and banning everything else in people's lives that give them freedom and opportunity. And one of the things that's helped out with people's being able to breathe is natural gas. Being able to use natural gas for stoves and other things compared to what they used in the past, which were logs, right, or dung or something else that were even worse for people overall. And look, if you want to use electric stoves, then make that be your choice. Educate people and the public on what the costs are, what you intend for the cost to be. Allow them to choose. Have them to have these voluntary transactions that work so well in the private sector so that they can have freedom and liberty. And oh, by the way, those electric stoves, where does that electricity come from? Usually from coal, from other types of places, not the clean burning natural gas that's being used in gas stoves today. So government needs to step back, let people be able to do what's best for them. And then that allows for more freedom, more liberty, and ultimately more prosperity overall.
Vance, your latest piece in the Washington Examiner, you say the dismal state of the economy blindsided many people last year, but we don't have to be caught so unaware in 2023. Knowledge is power, and knowing what could happen this year might make a difference in your finances. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, a lot of people were caught off guard a little bit by 2022 when you had a lot of economists that were saying transitory inflation, not persistent inflation. And so I don't think people were caught up with how much inflation was really going to go up or how much the economy was going to fall after we had that boom, right? Of so much government influence. And then, of course, the bust that was going to happen. And while some of us were talking about that early on, there were a lot of people that weren't in mainstream media and everything else. And so I think right now we need to be cognizant of the situation that we're in here in 2023, learn from the mistakes that happened in 2022. And so even if Congress and the Fed and everyone else can get their own house in order, we can get our own houses in order as individuals, as families, to really prepare ourselves for a rainy day. That may mean, spending a little bit less, saving more, maybe don't take a big trip, but really find out what's going to make sure that you're comfortable given the situation that we're in, whether or not those dollars are going to be there for your job or other things. Because a lot of times when we see our politicians trying to come after the private sector, and what that does is it changes up the amount of expectations, the certainty. It makes a lot of uncertainty in the economy. And what businesses don't want are uncertainty. Individuals don't want uncertainty. Families don't want uncertainty. We like the certainty that's out there whenever we can get it. And when the government's so much involved with the economy, we just don't have that right now. And so I think this knowledge is power going into 2023. And we're in here now to really make sure that you're in your best situation possible to allow you to prosper overall.
Very briefly, Vance, do you like gold?
I like gold. Yeah.
Are you a gold standard kind of a guy, or where do you fall on that issue?
Look, I'm in favor of gold standard compared to the fiat currency system we have today. Count me in for sure. I like that sort of physical backing of the dollar, of the currency that we're going to have. I would ultimately like to see a free banking system, because I think even with gold, the government can manipulate the price of gold overall. But if we're thinking about what's better today, I would definitely take gold.
Thank you for that perfect segue for me to talk about my sponsor, Vance Ginn, senior fellow from Young Americans for Liberty. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, Austin. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. You keep up the good work, too. What do you think of Vance Ginn? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. You heard him. We've got trouble right here in Jefferson City, and it starts with R, recession. Might not be the best year to get into the stock market. Might be a good year to take a portion of your retirement and invest it into gold. Maybe this is the year that you need to accumulate gold and silver. And if you're thinking about doing so, visit our sponsor at learaustin.com. That's Lear, like King Lear. You liked King Lear, didn't you? Read King Lear in high school? learaustin.com. And get a free informational packet about what services they have to offer. There's no obligation to buy, and you help support the show when you sign up for the free info packet at learaustin.com. This is a good year to do it. Probably not a good year to be doing a lot of investing in stocks. Probably a good year to be accumulating things that will maintain value, because if you're gonna hold cash, they're gonna inflate more, so your cash is gonna lose value. If you trust people like Vance Ginn, then the stock market's probably not going to do so hot either, which means that if you've got money and you want to save it, probably better put it in a nice store of value. Just find out more from our friends over at Lear Capital at learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. Help support the show. Visit our sponsors. Get more information for free and find out if gold and silver is right for you. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Did you like that interview with Vance Ginn? It's always good to get an idea of what's going on with the state of the economy, because that is the lifeblood of all that we do. I was happy to see that our buddy John Rail this morning is going vacationing this year. Looks like he's taken life by the giant bronze dong. Good for you, John. Glad to have you here this morning. Thanks so much for being a monthly sponsor of the Wake Up America show. We certainly appreciate you and all of the sponsors who go out of their way to help make this program grow. And certainly we are growing. I don't know if you saw over the weekend, but this last week I've been producing this content called Guns of the Presidents, and it's really exciting to see how well that content has done. As a matter of fact, one of my videos had over 100,000 views on TikTok before TikTok banned all of my videos. It's okay to post videos of people firing actual guns. It's perfectly fine for you to talk about guns. It's perfectly fine to fire full auto machine guns on TikTok. But if you talk about history and you educate people about guns that were owned by the presidents, even if they're just pictures and that's all, and it's just a 1-minute history video, the Chinese Communist Party does not like that. They don't want you to educate people about American history and talk about guns that were owned by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. It had over 100,000 views on TikTok. I was really excited. I was like, wow, okay, maybe I should spend some time here. Probably not a good idea. So, but good news is that YouTube is growing like crazy. We've got all these new followers over on YouTube, and it's thanks to the support of people like yourself. And this new content that I'm producing, the Guns of the Presidents, has been getting a lot of traction. Joni Rankin, welcome to Freedom Ninja. We appreciate your support as well. Thanks for being a monthly sponsor. John says he prefers life by the horns, Austin, not so much by the big bronze penis. Yeah, for sure. All right, so here's a question for you. This guy went viral last week. A man went viral last week for spraying down a homeless person who was sitting outside of his shop. If you are a business owner and you have homeless people who are scaring off potential customers, how do you deal with a question like that? Let's watch this video. Tell me how this video, watching this, makes you feel. Look at this. This is in San Francisco. Look at him. So here he is. He's got his hose out. He's just sitting there kind of casually spraying this woman. Now, the guy did come out and apologize in this video. Take a listen.
And abhorred when I watched that video. I completely broke. Not equipped or trained to deal with a long-term citywide problem like this. I know it's very hard to watch. I can only ask others to maybe try to better understand my breaking point. I look at sudden reactions they might have had in their own life. And
what
now
do you do?
they may have strongly overacted. And now.
Yeah, that is a homeless woman, and he is spraying her down on the sidewalk because this woman is scaring off customers, keeping people away from his business. Some 7-Elevens, though, in Texas and California and New York have found a novel way of deterring homeless people from hanging out at their establishment without having to spray them down with a hose. Take a listen to this. Some 7-Eleven convenience stores have started using roaring classical music and opera music as a tactic to deter homeless people from camping out in front of their storefronts. One Texas 7-Eleven owner says the goal is to deter them from being there and harassing customers. Some customers say they're all for the music, but others are, annoyed by it. One of the store owners in Austin, Texas, says that he's gotten multiple noise complaints from blasting classical tunes. He doesn't know whether the actual decibel levels fall within the city's ordinance, but he is planning on lowering the volume a little bit. He says the homeless population has been a big problem and that a lot of his female customers and his young customers are scared to come there because there are people constantly hanging out in the parking lot soliciting for money. He has to pay professional cleanup for needles, and others who work nearby say that they've actually been attacked by homeless people. What do you think about this one? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I want to hear your solution to something like this? I mean, it's a big problem in San Francisco. It's a big problem in some of these areas. Makes your place of business much more dangerous if you're losing money. I mean, would you spray somebody down with a hose? Would you blast classical music at high volumes? And maybe you terrify people away who hate classical music, but maybe you don't want those people as customers anyway. I don't know. Let's hear from you, and I'll talk about your responses when we get back. One of the best comedic performances calling out wokeism that I've seen in a long time. I'll play that video for you. We'll react to it. Don't forget, Iraq Veteran 88 coming up at 8:30 a.m. this morning to talk about that new rule in ATF pistol braces making people like you felons overnight. We'll talk about that on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. You can send us a text today at the program at 573-319-1586. We've got lots of great content for you to go with an hour left on the show. This is probably one of the better comedic breakdowns of woke politics that I've seen in recent years. Everybody wants to claim the mantle to the throne for who will break wake. Let's take a look over at our Twitter weirdness scene and talk about this man talking about Twitter weirdness at Oxenford. Take a listen to this.
Now, I want to talk to those of you who are woke and who are open to rational argument. A small minority, I accept.
Very small, yes.
Because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. But I believe in you. I believe there are those of you here who are woke, who are open to rational argument, so let me make one. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change.
Yes, all of these memes that come out all the time are like, oh, he died because of climate change. Climate change is this. Climate change is the catch-all. And this is why people believe that it's a global communist conspiracy against our rights, is because no matter what the problem is that we're facing, floods in California, lack of electricity in Texas, too much gaseous emissions from French bulldogs in mid-Missouri, you can blame it all on climate change. Let's continue.
We're told that many of you suffer from climate anxiety.
Yes, they do.
You wish to save the planet.
Well, here's the thing: climate anxiety, right? Everybody suffers from. The problem I think that we face in politics, because I think wokeism, there's a right-wing version of wokeism, but the left-wing version of wokeism, it's and both left and right wokeism are based around anxiety, fear of the future, right? The new populist movement on the right, the MAGA wokeism, is one based on the anxiety of losing your country, losing your traditions, losing your religion, losing, and it's based around an anxiety, right? Leftism is based around an anxiety that the world is ending. There's too many people on this planet. We're overpopulated. There's a conspiracy against the rights of LGBT people, right? But it's all based on anxiety, right? These people who have fear and who want to project their fears on the rest of us through politics. It's not just confined to the left.
And for tonight, and tonight only, I will join you. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. Let us all accept right here, right now, that we are living through a climate emergency and our stocks of polar bears are running extremely low. I join you in this view. I truly do. Now, what are we to do about this huge problem facing humanity? What can we in Britain do? We can only do one thing. You know why? This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's going to be decided by poor people in Asia and Latin America who don't care about saving the planet. You know why? Because they're poor. Because they're poor. I come from Russia, which is not a poor country, it's a middle-income country. 20% of households in Russia do not have an indoor toilet. What they have is an outdoor toilet. And I don't mean one of those nice portaloos that we get here. I don't even mean a Glastonbury portaloo. I mean a wooden shack with a hole in the ground that holds a collected fermented memory of the last 10,000 visits. How many of you are going to go home tonight and say, let's rip out our bathroom and erect a Siberian shithouse in the back garden?
Love it.
And if you're not, why should they? 120 million people in China do not have enough food. I don't mean that they don't get dessert. I mean they suffer from malnutrition. That means that their immune system is breaking down because they don't have enough food. You're not going to get them to stay poor. Imagine you're Xi Jinping, the leader of China. When you were 10 years old...
So, pause for just a moment before we get into the China question. This is, if you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, we're watching a breakdown of wokeism by a gentleman at a speech in Oxenford. And Buddy Mansour had a funny comment over on YouTube. He says, my gay weatherman, Congressman Eric Sorensen, just told me that the chance for tornadoes today is because of climate change. Yes, climate change is a catch-all for everything. But the point is that he's saying here is that you're not going to convince poor people in these countries to give up the possibility of getting themselves out of poverty. And even if you could do it, you'd be harming their health, right? These people are malnourished, right, in third world countries. He's been giving this example of Russia, which is a middle income country, and 20% of them still have outhouses that they use, right?
There was a revolution, a cultural revolution in your country, and people came and they put your father in prison. Your mother had to denounce him. Your sister killed herself. And you, no longer enjoying the protection of your formerly powerful father, were sent to a village where you lived in a cave house. And here you are, decades later.
That's the story of Xi Jinping, by the way.
You have clawed your way up the bloody and greasy pole of Chinese politics to be the undisputed supreme leader of the very Communist Party that destroyed your family. And you know that the main thing you have to do to survive and to stay in power is to deliver the one thing that the people of China want: prosperity, economic growth. Where do you think climate change ranks on Xi Jinping's list of priorities? 1/3 of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India. That means they are starving and dying of preventable disease. Now, about 15 months ago, my wife got pregnant. Not me, because we're old school. And for 9 months, we talked about what our boy would look like, what he might do when he grows up. We looked at baby scans and videos on YouTube about what the fetus looks like at 9 months and 12 months and 20 months. And eventually he was born. And he is this cute little bundle of joy. He's cuter than about 80% of puppies. Right? Now, if you said to me that I had a choice, either my son had a serious risk of starving or dying from a preventable disease in the next year, or I could press a button and he would live. He would go to school. He would bring his first girlfriend home. He'd go to university and graduate and become a woke idiot. And then he'd get a job and get married and have children and become a man. But all I have to do is press this button. And for every day of my son's life, a giant plume of CO2 is going to get released into the atmosphere. Now, you're all very young, and most of you are not parents. Let me tell you something. There is not a parent in the world who would not smash that button so hard their hand bled.
That's right. Amen.
You are not going to get these people to stay poor. You're not even going to get them to not want to be richer. And so, I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing we can do in this country to stop climate change, and that is to make scientific and technological breakthroughs that will create the clean energy that is not only clean, but also cheap. No, thank you. And I want everyone to get home on time today, which is not going to happen.
What did you think of that?
And
send us a text, 573-319-1586. That was, oh my God, bro. I can just hear Greta Thunberg right now. Just out there, and all the leftists who hear that. Damn, good stuff. You see, I only share with you the absolute best clips on the Wake Up America show. We've got lots more great show to go. Iraq veteran 8888 coming in today at 8:30. So 15 more minutes. We're going to hear from him on the ATF pistol brace rule. Lots more great content to go. What do we have coming up next for him, Johnny? I don't know, because I've got my how to create beautiful photographs, high quality illustrations using artificial intelligence. I'm going to give you a demonstration on how to do that when we come back, how I've been creating these awesome thumbnail pics for the show. I'm going to give you a demonstration on that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mom, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. You can text the program today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Glad to have you here. If you're watching us over on YouTube, make sure you like the stream. Click that notifications icon so that you know whenever we're live, which is every Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. And also, if you're watching us over on YouTube, don't forget they keep changing your chat to top chat, which is filtered. If you want to get all of the comments people are making, make sure you click that live chat so that you can see what everybody's saying on the program this morning. We've still got lots more great content to go. Iraq veteran 8888, a.k.a. Eric Blandford, is going to be joining us here in a few minutes to talk about the ATF rules on pistol braces. But before we do, I've been getting a lot of questions from people about how I've been using artificial intelligence in my workflow. And I thought that it might be helpful for me to switch over to explain to you all how I'm doing this in my workflow, how I'm creating some of these amazing artwork and photography that I'm using for the show. And so in that vein, I thought let me give you a nice little brief demonstration of what I'm doing to create some of these pictures that you see. Now, here's the thing. Some of the pictures that you'll see from the Wake Up America show, like today, you're seeing like the new rooster in these transitions. So take a look at this transition, for example. See the rooster there in the Wake Up America show, right? That was all generated by artificial intelligence. And this is really handy, especially for creative type people. So this is a software program called Midjourney, Midjourney. And this program, Midjourney, gives you the ability to type text commands into a prompt, and then it generates an image for you. Now, I'm paying for this service, so I'm going to try and do it just a few times. But you essentially log into a server on Discord, which is an app. You can either download the app or you can do what I'm doing right now and just use it in a browser. So you should have Discord as an app. And if you can see right here, see all these photographs that are popping up and flying by on the screen. This is an example of what people are using this for, to create high quality artwork that they can then use for their creative projects. So for me, I need to create things that are, logos, high quality designs. Let's say, for example, so for my Guns of the Presidents series on YouTube, I need a logo that goes along with that, right? And what you're seeing right there, these are people who are in this server who are giving commands. So for example, this is a person who said, I want a movie theater with a tiered red seating, Ultra HD, 8K, photorealistic, Unity engine, quality 5. These are all the commands that you can use. Now, you don't have to give all those really, highfalutin, commands in order for that to appear, right? You can, when you start, you can make things a lot simpler. So let's say for ourselves, imagine people at home watching a live stream on their computers of Austin Peterson doing a show on the screen. Let's just see what it gives us. Okay, so it says right there, boom, people at home watch do AP for Liberty, waiting to start. So it's going to take a moment and it's going to generate something based on that prompt that I gave it. Now, it could be wild and weird because I wasn't extremely specific about what might come out of here might be something that's in no way what we're looking for. You can see somebody typed in they wanted 2 avocado parts in love, comic style. Right? You can actually give it a style of art. You can ask it to do pixel art. You can ask it to do it in the style of Van Gogh. You can ask it to do in the style of Salvador Dali. You can have it do, so the style for my show, here we go. People at home watching computers of Austin Peterson doing a show on the stream. Here we are. This is you guys right now. Look at that, open in browser. Here they are. Is that me? Does that look like me? That's actually not too bad, at least in terms, there we go, more of a Chad thing right there. Here they are. People are watching us the stream. Is this you guys right here? Is this you watching the stream? Look at that. Some of you guys got a little bit of an issue going on right there. Actually, this looks like me watching myself here because obviously I'm the Chad. That's a little bit closer to reality. What do you think? Does that look like me? I think that's actually pretty good. But what should I ask it to make now, right? So let's see. Let's say, imagine a gold themed logo, American Eagle, ultra real or hyper, is it ultra or is it hyper? I think it's hyper realistic 4K eagle holding a musket and presidential seal. Okay, boom. Let's pop that in there. Okay. So this will be something that I could in theory use for my Guns of the President video series, right? And now here's the thing. This would cost you hundreds of dollars for graphic designers to come up with custom art for whatever project it is that you're working on, right? I need a thumbnail photo background. Again, what you're seeing right here, this is all artificial intelligence generating this artwork, right? So what you're seeing flying by right now are examples of that, right? What people are asking for, right? Full body shoot, cute farming girl, 18-year-old, full lips, colorful, flirty, tight embroidered tube dress, right? This is what's popping out there, right? This is what they're getting for their response. Maria Callas, right? So you can ask it to put you in a cathedral and all this stuff. This is, here we go. There's my logo. Look at that. My Guns of the President's logo. Look at that. That's gorgeous. Now, I like that a lot, okay? But I like out of all 4 of these, I think I like the top left one the best. So I want to upscale that to higher resolution. And I'd also like maybe to do a different version of it and then remake it, right? So it's going to go through and it's now going to take that version that I like and it's going to make it higher resolution. It's going to make it higher quality version of that you can then use in your graphic design programs. Here we go. Look at that. 4 different variations of that same logo that I can now go and use, and it saves it for you automatically. So if you lose it in all this, melee that's going on here, it'll save it in a folder for you. I just want to pull it up again for you so you can see the quality of this that you're getting from these. There's my job it's working on. Let's see if I can find it again real quick without flowing through. This is live if you're watching this right now, so things aren't always smooth and clean and pretty on most that you get on a lot of YouTube videos that are pre-produced. But look at that. Beautiful logo for Guns of the Presidents. I think I'll definitely use one of those today. But that'll save you a lot of time and that'll save you a lot of money. All right, let's go visit with Iraq veteran 8888. We'll be back to talk about those ATF rules on pistol braces. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. Happy Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Thanks so much for tuning in to the show today. We're glad to have you here. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you. You can also send us a super chat over on YouTube. All right. Well, my next guest making his first appearance on the program is Eric Blandford. He's joining us now to talk about the ATF rule change for pistol braces. Are we just going to be turning tens to hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million people into felons overnight? We'll get that expert commentary from him. He's joining us right now on the show from a rural area in Georgia, one of our favorite firearms experts. Good morning, Eric. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Austin, dude, thanks so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your work, big fan of the channel. Been following you on Twitter for quite a while, and I always love the commentary you're putting down. Very common sense, very everyday manish, and of course, extremely freedom oriented, which, you know, those are all the things that we hold near and dear, you know, especially here in these rural areas. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned, you know, being in the middle of nowhere. And earlier we were talking about Starlink and you being in the middle of nowhere. And it's just so funny how we have this little bit of isolation that sometimes can sort of jade us a little bit. And, you know, we go, well, gosh, you know, we're out here minding our own business. We're peaceful. Everything's cool. And we see these crazy rules and laws and all these things start to pass. And you start thinking, well, gosh, like that doesn't apply to me. Like I'm just out here in the middle of nowhere minding my own business. And, you know, we tend to take those things pretty personally. I mean, anytime that there is a little bit of a roadblock or otherwise some sort of an issue with our freedoms, we take offense to those things. Of course we do. And the brace situation is quite concerning. You know, it really is the ultimate form of entrapment, if you think about it. Because, all right, if I'm law enforcement and I say, you can do this, all right, I give you permission. I give you a permission slip and I say, this is allowed. And then I let you do that thing unimpeded for a decade or more, and then turn around and go, oh, by the way, we changed our minds. Now it's not legal. And by the way, if you've done this the entire time, even though we told you that you could do it, you're now a felon. Is that not entrapment? Right? Does the rule of lenity not come into play? I mean, they're using Chevron deference as this sort of de facto lawmaking body. And, you know, with the recent bump stock situation, right, they ended up determining that rule of lenity applies, that Chevron deference cannot be used in these types of matters. Right. We've always been taught in civics class growing up that laws must be passed through Congress, and only Congress has the ability to pass laws. Right. Only Congress has the ability to levy or you know, completely do away with taxes or to assess a tax. Right. So here's the ATF saying we're going to waive the tax. Well, for one, they don't have the authority to waive the tax. Only Congress has the authority to assess or waive a tax. Right. They're saying, you know, well, it's now illegal. You can't do what these people are trying to do unless you actually change the Gun Control Act, unless you actually change the law. Congress must change the law in order to give these folks what they want. It's pretty telling. It's a backdoor gun confiscation. It's a backdoor gun registry. Registry leads to confiscation. Confiscation leads to tyranny. I mean, it's all a multi-step process to get them to their end goal, which is ultimately control of the populace having no ability to protect themselves or defend themselves with the tools that they deem appropriate. It's pretty scary, for sure.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Eric Blanford. You may know him as Iraq Veteran 8888. You can follow him over on YouTube, where he gives some of the best gun advice and does some of my favorite videos of him melting down firearms, firing them so quickly. Definitely not the kind of content that they like to see on social media a lot of times. So make sure that you follow him so that you can get him up in the algorithms. Of course, we got to support our fellow citizens in the gun community. Eric, in terms of what the ATF is doing here, obviously it's completely unconstitutional. You mentioned it as sort of a backdoor gun registry here. So what the ATF is proposing essentially is a form of amnesty, they call it. So if you own a pistol that is, you know, something that has a barrel that's underneath, you know, I think it's 14 inches or something. You can correct me here in just a moment on that one. Underneath a certain amount of inches, right? And it has a brace on it rather than a typical stock that you might have on a firearm. The ATF is saying that's no longer a pistol. That's now a short-barreled rifle. So then what is a pistol? Is a pistol now a short-barreled rifle? Is my 1911 a short-barreled rifle?
Well, so the Gun Control Act defines these things quite clearly. Like it tells us what a rifle is, what it isn't, what a pistol is, what it isn't, right? So here's the major issue and the whole hang up with the whole situation, right? Is that these braces were approved by the ATF. Okay. It's not, so they had the ability to say, oh no, that changes the configuration in such a way that we think it de facto creates an SBR, which would be negating the $200 tax stamp, what have you, or that sort of thing. Well, for one, they said it was okay. And also, when there's a complete Democrat-controlled House, Senate, and presidency, they had control of the ship, and they could have totally moved through the Congress to get this thing codified into law in any way they wanted to when they had control of the ship. And you notice that that didn't occur. So, you know, they keep saying that braces can be used in crimes, or that they are used in crimes in a disproportionate amount compared to other firearms. And the FBI crime statistics just do not show that as being true. That is objectively untrue. Because if they wanted to make a distinction between the a pistol, like let's just say when we say pistol, we usually think of like a handgun, right? If we were thinking, okay, well, pistols are used in a certain amount of crimes, and then let's say that those crimes started being occurred with a braced pistol, like what you're talking about, an AK or an AR or a PCC with a brace device attached or something, well, then wouldn't the FBI say, ding, 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 oh, we need to create a special, a different set of data to reflect braced pistols? No, they didn't do that. So that proves that either one, the data is completely inconclusive and cannot back up their claims that braces are used disproportionately or in an extreme way in crime, or two, they know dang well that they never even thought that in their heads at all as being something that would be a point of contention. Here's my biggest hang up with the whole situation with braces is that, okay, look at what happened in 2020. Look at all the riots, look at the looting, look at all of the uncertainty and political unrest that was occurring in this country. All right, what happened? All right, a huge subset of Americans went and purchased guns to protect themselves. Hooray, hallelujah. I mean, God bless the Second Amendment. That is what it's for, right? But what types of people were going and buying firearms, right? Single moms who were scared, minorities, people, even liberals and leftists and people that have never have considered buying a firearm ever. They were like, you know what? Things are getting crazy. I may not really love the Second Amendment, but you know what? I don't want to get caught without a gun. I at least, understand self-preservation, and I want to have a gun to protect myself. Well, what do? They went out and they bought Daniel Defense Mark 18s with braces on them. They bought any type of regular, if you go into a gun store and go, oh, cool, a short AR pistol with a brace on it, you're going to say, wow, that looks like a useful configuration. I think I'll purchase that to protect myself with. I mean, what do you want to maneuver in your household? A 20-inch AR with a full A2 stock, or do you want to maneuver a Daniel Defense Mark 18? Well, for personal protection inside the home, obviously a Mark 18 is a much better choice to get around tight corners. What I'm concerned about is that, see, us gun guys that are in the know, we're going to look at this and go, ATF, we see your little shenanigans. We're gonna, think 5 steps ahead of you, and we're going to figure this out. What I'm concerned about is the Joe Blow, regular Miss and Mr. America who just went to the gun store and bought a braced pistol, not knowing, because if the gun store sells it, it must be legal, right? Of course, right? That makes sense. You did a 4473, you did your due diligence, you did whatever you need to do, and you bought your gun and took it home. What I'm concerned about is Joe Blow America who bought these guns and doesn't know the difference. They don't know what a SBR is or what a pistol brace is. All they know is they went to Bob's Pawn and bought it and took it home, and they did their due diligence. Those people are now going to be felons unknowingly, and they're going to get caught up in some crap or something. You're getting pulled over on the side of the road, and some Dudley Do-Right cop is going to go, oh, caught you with your pants down. And now all of a sudden, you're talking a $100,000 fine, 10 years in prison, or both, depending on how hardcore they want to prosecute somebody for having these things. That's my concern. The people in the know, it's not going to really affect them. They're always going to think 5 steps ahead of these people. I think that light's a little bright. They're always going to think 5 steps ahead of these people, right? But your average Joe, they're going to get caught unknowingly. And, is that not entrapment?
Completely agree. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, I'm speaking to Eric Blandford, who's got that halo effect around him. So he is quite heavy today. Yeah, glad to have you here, Eric. I want to ask you about something else related to the firearms community. Just days after Illinois became the 9th state, U.S. state, to ban assault rifles, they've already hit a roadblock to their law, to implementing this law, and it's come from defiant sheriff's offices. At least 74 Illinois sheriff's departments have publicly vowed to defy elements of a recent gun control law that was signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker, which banned what CBS News is calling, or ABC News is calling, assault rifles. Let's not quibble with semantics here. Let's just talk about what these sheriffs are doing. Your thoughts?
Well, a lot of people need to remember that the sheriff is a very, very important person in your community. Okay. They are an elected, they are a politician essentially, right? But your sheriff is an elected official, and your sheriff has a heck of a lot of power in your community. Your sheriff can literally say, screw you feds, get the heck out of my county, right? They can say, we're not going to enforce this. They are the chief law enforcement officer for that county, that area, that municipality, what have you. Sheriffs have a lot of latitude to say, well, we know you passed this law, but you know what? I'm not going to put my deputies in danger. I don't think it's constitutional. We respect and defend the constitutional rights of our citizenry, and we simply are just going to ignore your law. So, the governor of Illinois has threatened these sheriffs with disciplinary action. Well, he can threaten all he wants, but at the end of the day, they are an elected official. The only person that can arrest the sheriff is the coroner. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
So I don't think the coroner is going to go poking around the sheriff's office. Usually your coroners are some pretty cool people, overall.
Unfortunately, you never get to meet him until it's too late to meet him.
Well, I guess you never get to meet him. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but good on those sheriffs to stand up for the rights of their citizenry, and many municipalities, counties, cities, even states have become 2A sanctuaries. And I know the county I live in, I'm here in Spalding County. Our sheriff is extremely pro-gun, and he absolutely will not enforce any anti-gun laws against the citizens of Spalding County. So it's going to take a lot of sheriffs to have some bravery and to step up and say, you know what, these are my people, and I'm not going to let them do this to them. So you've actually seen on the other end of the spectrum, you've had like a lot of far left leaning, or let's just say anti-gunners. I don't even look at it from left and right anymore, because you've got people on the right that are anti-gun and on the left that are anti-gun. So let's just get that out of our heads here. Let's just say, hey, someone who's an anti-gunner, right? You have these anti-gunners coming out of the woodwork, which in the case of Illinois, most of them are, maybe more on the left end, but I digress. The point is, they're saying, well, we went through the appropriate channels and passed this law, and here you are, subverting the will of the people. And now you've got these sheriffs saying that we're not going to enforce this. But here's the thing. I could pass a law overnight that says you have to give up your firstborn child to the government. But if that ain't right, it ain't right. Like, unconstitutional is unconstitutional. A law that is repugnant to the Constitution must be disobeyed. It is not law. The Constitution is the ultimate law of the land, and any law in defiance of the Constitution is not a law, and you should absolutely obey it. Now I'm getting into my spooner, but the point is, it's true. So these sheriffs, they recognize that, well, if I read the Constitution and it says shall not be infringed, well, that's an infringement. So you know what? Good on them to have the backbone to say, you know what, we see through this crap, and they could pass any law they want. But at the end of the day, if it's not in line with our constitutional rights, it's not a law.
That's
it's
great.
just
That's
a
great
terrible
commentary.
idea.
Absolutely. And that's great commentary, Eric. Definitely why we brought you on here, and the type of informative and intelligent commentary that I try and offer my audience in terms of quality of this show. Now I'd like to be a little selfish for one last question before I let you go here, and just talk about something that interests me specifically and is not generally the type of, content that we talk about on this show. But being, having watched your videos for a number of years, and then having played Battlefield 1 and being a huge military history buff, a few years ago, I got heavily into collecting military surplus rifles. And for a brief period there, I was able to go and I bought a Mosin Nagant, my very first one, for like $150 at a gun show in Virginia. And they were just pulling them out of these boxes. And I was so excited because I thought this is what it's going to be like. I'm going to be able to just go and purchase World War II arrow rifles, Nazi guns, commie guns, M1 Garands. I'm just going to be able to go buy those things and they're going to pull them out of boxes and it's going to be like this forever. And then reality hit and then COVID hit. And now I can't really afford my own hobby anymore. My question to you is, would you say that the military surplus market these days is pretty much done, that we'll probably never see, Mosin boxes anymore, Mosin crates coming out anymore? Or is there any hope for the future? Or is this going to be something that's going to be relegated to very, rich collectors?
Well, that's a fantastic question. That is such a great question. What a great question. So to not get into like the weeds super far in nerdy details or anything, let's just say that, the law of supply and demand is a thing, right? And with games like Battlefield, I mean, you look at YouTube videos, like some of the stuff that I'm putting out, and of course you got like Ian at Forgotten Weapons, and you got Othias, and all those dudes that are putting out all this informative content about all the guns of yesteryear. And of course, once interest in these things grows to a crazy amount, people want them and they desire to have those guns. So as the pool of people gets way larger than what it was 20 years ago, and the finite amount of guns stays the same, you are going to see some increase in price. Now, to answer your question about, all right, are we going to see like random crates of guns showing up from the dark corners of the world, showing up on our doorstep? Anything can happen. When they found the Nepalese cache over in the Royal Arsenal in Nepal of all those martinis, they had forgotten that those cannons, machine guns, sabers, martinis, Gehindras, all those guns, they'd forgotten that they were there, and they discovered them and loaded them up in giant tractor trailers and had them shipped back to the U.S. and cleaned up. And you can still get those guns. You can go through International Military Antiques, and they are still sorting through those old school martinis. That's a great way to get a legitimate antique from the Royal Arsenal of Nepal. Is that to say that there's not some dark corner of the world that still has some undiscovered treasure? Of course, there's always going to be some undiscovered treasure. Now, is it going to be like the years immediately after World War II where you couldn't give bolt action rifles away? Now, those days are probably gone, but I have hope that the surplus world is still on fire. We just have to dig a little deeper. We have to look under a few more rocks. We have to look in some deep, dark corners somewhere. Look, the heyday of surplus might be over, but the interest level in surplus has never been greater. And I think that there's still a lot of opportunities to find some cool stuff out there, for sure.
Okay, one last question for you. One last one, I promise. And I'll let you go. Top most affordable collectible military surplus rifle in 2023 is?
Okay. Well, I would say, all right, I'm going to look at this from the standpoint of value in the gun for what you're spending. Like, there's no like screaming deals anymore. The days of $79 Mosins are over. The days of $159 SKSs are over. We can get those numbers out of our head. But if we want to look at value, and if I had to buy a surplus rifle right now, I would say either a good cleaned up Martini Henry from IMA, or IW, International Military Antiques, IMI. I'd say either one of those, or the Swiss K31s are still affordable. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll let you in a little secret. Our friends at Simpsons Limited, they have a bunch of nice, clean K31s in stock, and the prices are like $500.
Ooh, that's
now,
good.
when you look at what people are trying to get for a 9130 service rifle, like a Russian Mosin Nagant, those things are selling for $350, $400. In my mind, I'd rather spend an extra $100 and get a K31. Because they make a lot less of them. They're a lot more rare. And gosh, they are fantastic guns.
My problem now with the military, the K30. My problem now with the military surplus rifles is affording all the damn ammo for some of these antique guns. So that's been a problem. I got to cut it off there. Eric Blanford at Iraq Veteran 8888. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program today. Thank you for your expert insight and advice. And we appreciate that you stand up for the Second Amendment and for the right to bear arms. Have a wonderful day and a great week.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. What did you think of Eric, he was fantastic, right? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Would you like to have more interviews like that? Support the show at wakeupamericashow.com/support. You want to keep continuing getting these kinds of cutting-edge interviews and insight and advice, and now you're going to go buy yourself a nice Swiss K31. We can talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Boy, look at that. It's 8:59. I shouldn't even be here right now. I should just be playing out the commercials and then going. But I don't know. I just feel like I'm glowing because that was such a great interview. And when you get to interview somebody that you really admire and look up to and have for years, there's just kind of something about that in your career when you get to talk to somebody and pick their brain, somebody who's very much inspired you. And I'll tell you, Eric Blanford has inspired me in a lot of ways. I mean, not just from what he has said about the law, because I totally agree with him in regards to his legal opinions about firearms, but he's somebody who's inspired my hobby, right? And for me, collecting military surplus rifles is one of my most cherished hobbies. And it's something that I share with my buddy, Robbie Theriman, who is over in the chat, Captain Cafefe. And of course, Robbie and I are close friends for other reasons, our views on the law, but because he sees my eyes light up when I hold an M1 Garand and he feels the exact same way. Robbie and I share that passion and share that hobby. So getting that chance just now to interview Eric for the very first time was definitely a career highlight for me. And he just sent me a message. He says, whenever we get a big gun story like that, he'd be glad to come back on the show. And he said, hey, we'll definitely have to have you on Gun Gripes sometime. So it looks like we're going to be doing some more collaborations in the future. Exciting, right? This show is going places. We've got new sponsors and advertisers coming in soon. I've got an ad agency coming in soon. But I do have to let you know, there is going to be a little weird period, like an 11-day weirdness period at the end of March, because Stephanie and I yesterday, we booked our flights. We going to Japan, baby. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Domo. I'm so excited. Yeah. Not just because I love sushi and because I love Japanese culture and because I love video games, but because I love the military history. So we're going to go to some really cool military history shrines there in Japan and look at stuff from like their samurais. We're going to go to castles. And so there'll be an 11-day weird period where you will get Wake Up America show content. It will just be pre-recorded. But what I'm going to suggest that you do is watch some of our travel blogs that Stephanie and I are going to start creating. So we'll start creating some content for you on the channel that's related to our travels to Japan. And I'll try and make it military or history related. So that way it's somewhat relevant to the style of content that typical listeners of the Wake Up America show like to have. So would you like to see Stephanie and I's travel vlogs to Japan? Oh, I can't wait to introduce you to some of these awesome shrines that we're going to visit. We're going to see Mount Fuji. It'll be in the distance, not up close. We're going to go to Tokyo. We're going to go to Kyoto. We're going to go to the military history museums. We're going to stay in a Japanese ryokan. We're going to eat lots of sushi, and I'm going to drink lots of sake because my lovely wife doesn't drink. So she can help my waddle my drunk butt back to our hotel in Tokyo. It's going to be a great trip, 11 days. Trip of a lifetime. And, I guess I have to thank Mark Zuckerberg for that, for paying me out bonuses for a few months, because otherwise there's no way we would have been able to afford that. Good news is it looks like I might be hiring an employee very soon as well. We've got a new contract coming in on the Wake Up America show that's going to help us bring in a staffer, starting part-time, potentially moving to full-time. We are growing, we are moving, we are shaking, and it's all thanks to you and our sponsors over at learcapital.com, but mostly thanks to you at learaustin.com, but mostly thanks to you. I just want to say thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. This show started up in September and we're already killing it. See, a lot of people, and I was watching this video about this the other day, a lot of people think you have to have huge audiences in order to really make an impact and all that kind of stuff. No, you really don't. You don't have to be Mr. Beast with tens of millions of views on every single YouTube video that you have. We don't have to have 50,000 people watching the live stream in order to really be a successful show. What you need to have a successful show is people like you who are loyal, who stick around, if I make an ask of you, if I ask you for a favor or ask you to do something for me, then typically you do it, right? So when I ask you to say, hey, please go to learaustin.com or please be a monthly subscriber or whatever it is that you do, you don't have to have a huge audience for something like that. I know I'm going a little bit long today, but I just wanted to let you know how excited I am for the future and how grateful I am for your support. Seeing 21 people over on a live stream, you might say, oh, well, it must not be doing very well and all that kind of stuff. No, it is. It's doing very well. And the other content that we're producing as well is also doing very well and getting lots of views. I think my FDR video got like 10,000 views over the weekend. So we are growing. We have a constant stream of new subscribers. We have a constant stream of views that's trending up. I can't show you my YouTube views, but I will show you that sometime this week so you guys can see how the trends are looking. We're looking very good. It's thanks to people like Tolly Owens, Robbie Thurman, Joni Rankin, Doug H., A.L. Wild, Jamie Marie Pope, and all of our friends over on the live stream. Rare Camellia. We've got so many awesome people. The Palacios family, Jose and Sarah, supporting the show. Kara Pendleton yesterday, she won a $25 gift certificate to the AP for Liberty shop. Yes, she did. Congratulations. She's going to go get to visit AP for Liberty shop and spend 25 of my dollars in my shop. That's right. $25 gift certificate to Kara Pendleton. She is the winner. I'll send her that coupon code. Check it out. Visit apforlibertyshop.com. And don't forget, if you're a monthly subscriber, you are entitled to a 20% discount. And if you're not getting it, make sure you send me a direct message on like Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or anywhere that you want. Send me a DM. I'll see it. And I will get you your coupon code so that you can get that 20% discount on the shop. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.